Welcome to the Transition Bridge podcast. This is Debbie Ronka, and I know that today you're going to be so inspired by this episode. You know, transitions are not always about taking us to new seasons in life. They're also about taking us to new directions. And sometimes the transitions of loss, they have a way of coming into our lives and either taking away or shattering what we know as our everyday normal. But these can also become the inspiration or the catalyst for us to create something new, bring in a deeper dimension and even a higher purpose for our lives. This is the power of transition in our lives. And so my guest today, Andrew Buerger, is an incredible example of one who took the sting of loss and turned it into a new passion. Andrew is a TEDx speaker, author, and award-winning entrepreneur for-profit and nonprofit organizations. One venture, Be More Organic, was the number 5 on Inc.'s fastest growing natural organic brands in 2017. He's the founder of Jodi's Climb for Hope, which has raised more than $1 million for MS and breast cancer research by getting over 350 climbers safely to the summits on 4 continents. He's currently the CEO of Taharka Brothers Ice Cream Corporation, and he is also the co-host of the podcast, It's the Climb. And his book, Carrying a Flag from Pain to Passion, was a hot #1 new release on the Amazon list of mountain climbing books. Well, Andrew, welcome. Welcome to the Transition Bridge podcast. It's just such an honor to have you with us here today.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Wow, thanks for that introduction. I think our time is up for the day, right?
Oh, well, we could have a few more minutes.
Your introduction was so generous. You took up all of your own time.
Oh, no. Well, I have to tell you, when I read your story, and of course, I loved your TEDx talk,
Thank you.
your world was just rocked with unexpected illness that, just brought a lot of emotional and physical challenges with your family. And, these are the transitions I always try to teach about transitions. Sometimes we're blindsided by them. We're not prepared. They catch us off guard and we don't have time to plan. What is it that we're going to do next? Some transitions in life, we know we're going to retire,
Right.
or
Yes.
we know we're going to become an empty nester, but the type of transitions that you experience and others with loss of health, loss of a relationship can blindside us. And so they're even more difficult to come through, but I've always seen something birthed out of them. It's like this beauty comes out of the ashes. And so I know you have a compelling story to share with us and all that you have experienced, your family, and what you've created, and how you go around now teaching others how to navigate those valleys and mountains in life. So thank you for being here again. So why don't you take us from the beginning of how Jodi's Climb all came about?
Yeah, thanks. Sure. Well, there's a famous philosopher by the name of Mike Tyson, um, who's, who's a who said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And so, we all have our plans in life. When you're a kid, you want to be a fireman or whatever, when you're a kid and you sort of have your life planned out for you. But then, another saying is, man plans and God laughs. And so you're on your course until you get knocked off. And I had a wonderful, a relatively wonderful life and things were going in the right direction. I had experienced some loss. Naturally, my mother died when I was a child. I was just an infant when she died. And then, of course, that result was the most wonderful father in the world. Was amazing and so lucky to have him. And then till he died, suddenly when I was 31, he was undergoing heart surgery. So then when my sister, who was my best friend, my Irish twin, just 13 months apart, got sick, that was just like, woo. I got punched once, I got punched twice, I got back up. But the third time, like, I don't know how I can do this. And so I really wanted to do whatever I could. I couldn't just sit idly by. So I looked around the world to see where they were doing the best research for advanced breast cancer. And I'm here in Baltimore, and there's a woman at the time named Dr. Alicia Emmons, who was very early in using immunology to treat advanced breast cancer. So they would take a woman's tumor cells, turn off the DNA, and put it back into the woman's body and would wake up the immune system to fight that. I said, "Hey, oh my God, this is awesome. What can we do to help you?" She says, "I need money." And so, I'm not a very good climber, but I was climbing with a buddy of mine, and I said, "What if we charge people $5,000 to come climbing with us?" So lo and behold, we just started a nonprofit. We went climbing around the world to raise money for this woman, and we were able to get her a lot of money quickly because no red tape. She wasn't filling out forms, and so we were a very, very, very tiny cog in a wheel that um, helped move immunology into where it is today. It's not necessarily mainstream for breast cancer yet, but as you may have read, that it is being used for melanoma. So we were, a very small piece of that. But so it's so rewarding to know that, the work that you do in honor of somebody to help somebody is starting to come to fruition. So then my wife, of course, 5 months after we were married, we're still in the honeymoon phase, was diagnosed with uh, multiple sclerosis. So now we've also donating money to MS research as well.
That had to be such a shock. You were only married for 5 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, again, the plans you have, we had etched into our wedding rings, love, support, and adventure. And, certainly that was sort of taken from us. The adventure part is much hard. It was hard to have adventures with that illness at the time.
I understand that she had certain dreams of things that she wanted to do, and that MS kind of came in and stole that. She wanted to have her, have children, and you wound up adopting.
You know, I quoted the famous Mike Tyson, but the other person I love to quote is Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was the last of the great Roman emperors and a Stoic philosopher. And he once said, "It is fortunate that this happened to me. It is fortunate this happened to me." And so when great things happen, when our my for-profit is taking off and we got to meet Barbara Corcoran and we were number 5 on the fastest um, growing product in Inc. magazine, all that stuff. We were so excited and we celebrated. And all those things were fortunate. But when things go bad, I also say it is fortunate that this happened to me. Whether you believe in a higher power who's controlling it or the universe or just, Stoic philosophy that you'll find something fortunate. And, when we're married for 5 months, the doctor says, you have to go on this medication and you can't have kids, taking away Jen's dream. That was the little dream that she had as a 6-year-old girl, was to be a great mom. And that was taken from her. And lo and behold, we didn't know it, but within a couple of years, we had adopted 2 of the most gorgeous kids on the face of this earth from one of the poorest parts of the planet. And now they're such a gift to us. Everyone says, "Oh, isn't it amazing what you do?" I mean, no, we didn't do anything amazing. Well, they're a gift to us. They're the best thing that's ever happened to us. And that would have never happened if that first challenge wasn't given to us.
Hmm. When you have that perspective, it happened to me for a reason.
Right. Right. Yes.
So I love that because it's really coming from a very strong place. So what do you think are some of the reasons why some people, um, like the major hindrances that just allow them to stay stuck? When things happen, they just shut down and they don't try to find that silver lining. They don't try to move forward. In all of your speaking and all the things that you do to encourage people, what have you found to be some of the major hindrances to that?
Um, y- Several hindrances. One is just our mindsets. You can easily get stuck. Um, and and go, "Oh, woe is me. My mom died, my dad died, my sister died, my wife's got MS. I can't get out of bed." But, you know, I wasn't ready to lie in bed with pull the covers over my head. I wanted to live a full life. And I think one of the gifts I was given with all those tragedies, all those health setbacks with my four loved ones was, again, a gift. I know why I'm on this earth. I know that I'm on this earth to help take a bite out of disease so that families can live more fulfilling lives. I'm on this earth. My purpose on earth is to help take a bite out of disease so that families can live more fulfilling lives. So when I started Be More Organic, we created the first organic protein smoothie with no added sugar. And so I was getting emails from people around the country going, Mr. Buerger, thank you. You know, my aunt is dying of cancer and just the only thing she can keep down. Thank you. Or another email, Mr. Buerger, thank you. I'm undergoing gastric bypass surgery next month to save my life. And that's the doctor said I need something high in protein and low in sugar. And so every day I was able to get out of bed. You know, when you're running a business, it's hard and you don't want to get out of bed sometimes, but I had a mission. And every day I had to get out of bed to fulfill that mission. So those who have a sense of mission tend to stuck at that mindset that I was telling you about much faster, much easier, and much more successfully than people who don't have a mission.
It's like understanding our why.
She says, yes. So some people call it a why, some people call it a purpose, and some people call it a mission. So
Mhm.
it's one and the same term that means, why we're on this earth, what we're doing here, what flag we're carrying through life. And so once you figure that out, it's not easy. But again, when you get punched in the mouth enough, oh, it woke me up. Here's my mission. All these people are getting sick. I've got to do something about it. So when I had my for-profit business, we were creating the healthiest product on the market and giving 1% of sales to Jodi's Climb for Hope to cure diseases that we couldn't prevent. I got excited to run downstairs and get back to work every day.
That's powerful. That is powerful. And you have to have that kind of driven purpose to even climb the mountains that you've climbed. You know, you opened up saying that you're really not much of a climber, and yet you endured that.
Yeah.
You empowered yourself to do something so difficult because of the higher purpose.
And I think the purpose, and then the other thing is that I know how to get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes, tell us about that.
So, my wife and I, we love watching those Navy SEAL programs, right? Where they get these 19-year-old kids, rust them on a bed in the middle of the night and throw them in the cold ocean water. Now they keep them in there for hours and it's cold and it's dark and they're, of course, tired and hungry, scared. And then after hours and the water's going up their noses, they get them out of the water finally. And then they make them roll around in the sand. Now they've got sand where they didn't know they had body parts, right?
Oh, I
And
know.
why do they do that? To get them comfortable being uncomfortable. And so we need to develop that muscle. I've done research because I'm so obsessed with this topic that there's a part of our brain called the AMCC, the anterior mid cingulate cortex. It's a part of our brain. I'm sure that we're all, have different sizes of this part of our brain at birth, but research shows there's some plasticity. We can develop that part of our brain by getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And so for me, I'm sure I had probably a larger than average size when I was born, but the setback with my mother and my father and my sister developed that grit. And so some people obviously can't overcome that and get stuck, but I was able to overcome with therapy and work and other things and overcome those challenges. And it made me grittier. And I knew that that part of my brain grew. And then I also do things purposefully to get comfortable being uncomfortable. When I got stuck on a mountain once in sub-freezing temperatures for 30 hours. We were trapped in our tents.
Oh my gosh.
Just to get a cup of coffee, we had to get all this snow and then dig it out and then melt the snow and then boil it and then just to make one cup of coffee. It was really uncomfortable. The tent flaps were flapping on us. It was noisy. Everything about those 30 hours was hard. Trying to take a leak in 50-mile-an-hour winds was no picnic.
Oh gosh.
My life at sea level is so comfortable. I'm on my cell phone and, if it gets too hot, I can just, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to turn up the temperature, or too cold, and I can get go puffed. I can get food and drinks delivered to my door. My only challenge is walking 10 feet to the door. So I go to the mountains every year to get comfortable being uncomfortable. So every night when I lie down on my bed and I've got a comfortable down pillow and a gorgeous down blanket over me, and I know that 10 feet away is a warm bathroom with a toilet and a door. I'm like, oh my God, life doesn't get any better than that. And so getting comfortable, being uncomfortable repeatedly builds that part of my brain that knows that I can overcome any challenge.
So when the next challenge comes, you're already like you said, gritty enough to say, okay, come on, we could do this,
Correct.
instead of being laid out by it.
Correct. Correct.
I love that. So you talk about carrying a flag. Like, how do you bring that into life? You carried flags going up the mountain. Um,
Yeah.
how do you inspire people to translate that into their everyday life?
So, you know, my formula, we talked about how I'm able to overcome these challenges. And I feel like peak success is the ability to carry a flag and get comfortable being uncomfortable. So that's my formula. And I thought, oh, it's just an N of one. It's my experience. But my research shows that those two things, carrying a flag and get comfortable being uncomfortable, helps you become more successful as a person, as a business person, and just as a regular everyday citizen. Because developing that grit helps you overcome obstacles. We're always going to have obstacles, right? Whether, my kid gets sick or he gets picked last in the baseball team. It's so painful, but we're always going to have challenges, but we got to get back up. And by developing that grit, we can do that. So we talked about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, and the carrying a flag. Um, so we were climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, which is an amazing 6-day expedition, including a rest day, through 5 different climatic zones before getting to the highest point in the continent of Africa at 19,500 feet. And we kept seeing this one particular team, and we'd leapfrog them, they leapfrog us. We just have idle chit chat. And so we were able to get to the summit. We took our pictures. We get back down. Finally, grabbed a shower after 8 days, and having a cocktail overlooking the gorgeous Serengeti. And we finally caught up with the other team over a glass of wine, and I said, "Hey, how'd it go?" They said, "Well, 12 of the 24 of us summited." I said, "It's not a competitive sport." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, what happened?" Because, all 24 of us summited. Well, Billy's feet got cold, so Tracy took him down. And Eric got tired, so Stacy took him down. I'm like, what? My sister's flag is in my pack with her name on it, and the time she was still alive, to give her hope to live one more month, one more week, one more day to be with her family. We had names of loved ones who were dying and undergoing breast cancer treatment in our packs that we promised we'd get to the highest point in Tanzania to give them hope that we'd find a cure fast. We had names of people who passed away in our packs.
Oh,
We weren't going to turn around when our feet got cold if someone was vomiting from altitude sickness. Little Allison Midday, she was 20 years old, puking the whole way up from altitude sickness. My sister went through that for 5 years. She could do it for 18 hours. My wife is carrying a figurative pack every day. We could do that for 18 hours. And so it taught me the value of a flag. Carry a flag. We had a purpose.
mhm.
Nothing was going to stop this because our purpose was to get those flags to the summit of the mountain. And you can overcome those challenges. When you build the grit and you have a greater purpose, nothing is going to help you stop you overcoming those challenges.
It gives you the passion to endure.
It does.
It really does. And I love how you just shared that, compared to, like, your sister who was vomiting every day for 5 years. So
Yeah.
what's 18 hours? Like, if you put it in that perspective, and then it's like, gosh, if she could do that, I could do this for
Yes.
them, in memory of or in honor of
Honor.
the
Correct.
struggle that they're
Yes.
going through. And, to me, it's times like that, we all have these inner wells that we have to dig deep in and pull out of ourselves that strength to be able to do that. So is that what you pull out of your inner well? Just who you're doing this for? Your purpose? Is that what you pull up?
Yeah, so one of the things I like to talk about with carrying a flag is it can change. It can change, right? And so, our purpose to climb Kilimanjaro was to get those flags to the summit in honor of these people. But it can change, obviously we have our overarching why for our business. We have an
Mhm.
overarching why for ourselves. But I feel like we can carry temporary flags, right? Like, for example, I was climbing Mount Whitney once, and Mount Whitney is the highest point in the lower 48, and it's at 19,500 feet. And it was a tough expedition. We had to put in 2 camps, so you're carrying a really heavy pack up to higher camps. And I was getting a little bit older. I had the for-profit business that was keeping me busy. My wife could no longer train with me, so that was tough. And then we had the kids, so we couldn't, do much. And so getting to the summit, you don't sleep for a couple days because of the altitude and all the other things. And so I was exhausted, and I spent all my gas getting to the summit,
Mm.
which is a mistake. 80% of the accidents happen on the way down. So I was out of gas, which is something you don't want to do.
Right.
And so I had made my mistake, and I'm coming down and I'm out of gas. I'm done. Right. So Tiger was like, "Oh, Andy, it's just around the corner." I'm like, "Okay, I can get there. I can get there." And so I'm like, "Where is it?" And then Danny's like, "No, no, no, it's around the next corner." So I keep putting one foot in front of the other, and it's still camp is still not there. I'm like, "Oh gosh, you're lying to me, aren't you?" And so they were lying. And, I just wanted to lie down in the snow and die. But you know
Mm.
something? I had written my son's name on one water bottle and my daughter's name on another water bottle. So every time I took a sip, I knew why I was climbing. It wasn't to get to the summit. It was to get back down safely to see my family.
Mm.
So my why was a little different in this trip, right? Than it was than Kilimanjaro when I didn't have kids. And so, make sure that we have a purpose, whether it's you're fighting through something for your kids, or you're fighting it, for your church. You're gonna, something. I'm gonna help raise money. I don't want to get out of bed today, but I gotta help my church. I gotta help with that fundraiser, or there's some homeless people at the church I need to go service today.
Mhm.
Whatever that purpose is, make sure you carry it with you every day and write it down so you know what that is. And it can be temporary to help you overcome those challenges.
I like the visual of actually having your son's name on one bottle and your daughter's on another. I'm a visual person, so that that helps me.
Yeah,
Um,
I know. I know
sure.
that. I know that my Baltimore Ravens beat the Houston Texans a couple times in football this year, so I apologize for that. But the Ravens come out of the tunnel in a home game and they touch that. Play like a Raven today. Play
Right.
like a Raven today. So I got my flag behind me on my wall. We have our
Mhm.
prayer flags but what we do is sometimes we'll take a prayer flag and write something on it, and we'll carry that with us on an
Um,
expedition like that. So we write it down, and we can do that in our lives. We can take prayer flags and 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 write what today's purpose is, what our long-term purpose is, things that motivate us to overcome all sorts of challenges.
and I really believe just beginning, taking that first step where someone may feel really empty and dry and lacks passion, but to just do one thing will inspire and get those, I call them rivers of living water flowing inside of us again. And so it's a great motivation. Like listening to you is like, what is the one thing that I can start? What is the one place that needs help? And just start investing yourself in that. And then you watch your demeanor change, you watch your mindset change, and then the passion that you've been looking for is suddenly ignited. And I
Exactly.
yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So what about, I know you talk about the importance of having a guide, and if, we need one on the mountain, but how about in life?
Oh my gosh, so important. So important. I'm not a very good climber, so I don't want to fall in a crevasse. I don't want to get lost going to the summit of Mount Rainier at 1 o'clock in the morning when it's dark and get lost. And again, I want to come back to my family. So not being a great climber, I make sure I've got a guide with me, a person who knows the route, who knows the safety, who knows evacuation. God forbid I do fall in a crevasse, can get me out. And so I applied that to my life as well. And so when I started my for-profit business, as I said, we started the first organic protein drink with no added sugar. I just called up the guy who created the first organic tea with no added sugar, a guy named Seth Goldman. He started Honest Tea. He sold it to Coke for hundreds of millions of dollars, and now is doing many other great ventures. I called him up. Hey, do you mind being my guide? And Seth was able to keep me out of the crevasse, and on that kind of really narrow path through the dark. It's got tough. And so I applied that with some success to my for-profit business. Then I kind of said, wait a minute, this really works. Who are my guides? Who are my mentors? It works in mountain climbing. It worked. We're having a mentor for what else can I do? Now I've basically got a board of directors. I call my buddy Ben. Hey, Ben, I'm getting ready to do this climb. What are the best workouts? Or, something, I gained a couple pounds. What do you think the best way to approach this? And she's my health guide. And then I've got, my marriage goes off the rails. We call up our marriage coach. When my sister died, I called up a therapist. I'm going through a rough stretch here. So whatever you're going through, don't go through it alone. Don't suffer more than you need to. One of the exercises I do when I'm speaking, and I've spoken to groups, 300 people.
Yeah.
And I said, who here likes asking for help? And in an audience of 300, if I get two, it's a record, right? No one likes asking for it. It's a sign of weakness. I'm not weak. I'm strong. I can get through this. I can muster through. And I say, hey, something. Who here likes helping people? And of course, all 300, without fail, we all love helping. It makes us feel good. We do it selfishly because it makes me feel good. I made Seth Goldman feel good. I made my friend Ben feel good. Can you help me? They want to help me. Don't be afraid to ask for help. It's a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. Us men, we're the worst, right? Oh, I'm not going to ask for help. I'm tough. So when I discovered that it was a positive rather than being a negative, it was so beneficial to let that go. And so I encourage men and women to say, something, I need help in this particular area. Sometimes you got to pay for it with a therapist. Other time it can be a friend. Ben or Debbie, I'm going through a rough stretch here. Do you mind working out with me for a few days? Just get me going to the gym. Let's do it can you be my gym buddy for 3 weeks until I become a habit? Or can you hold me accountable? Here's the 3 things I want to accomplish this quarter. Can you mind meeting me every 90 days to make sure I'm doing this? Or checking on me. I'm worried about myself. I just need somebody to check on me. And they'll be glad to do that.
And what's great about that is we actually give another person purpose by just asking for help.
Yes.
And we all have different gifts and expertise, and we all are sitting around saying, gosh, I wish I had someone to pour this into.
Yes.
I wish I had a way to get this out of me to give to others. And you're right, community, we need it. We can't go alone because we don't have all the answers. And we need the guides, we need the mentors. Yeah, I just love how you share that. And you're so right. We feel much more comfortable helping others.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I guess it's about being vulnerable. Like you said, it's not about weakness, it's a strength to ask. So I guess we just feel like maybe, oh, we're interrupting that person or we're taking
Yeah.
too much of their time. Like we think of all the reasons why we shouldn't ask for help.
Yes.
But the
Yeah.
ultimate reason to ask is we're going to be better for it. We're going to
Yes.
grow. Like we grow from wisdom of a multitude of counsel, right? We just will grow from that.
Yeah. Most successful businesses will have a board of advisors. Hey guys, what am I doing here? And so board of directors. There's successful businesses that have board of directors. Well, why don't we have our own board of directors that help us?
Mm.
So because we all have blind spots, and so if you have a personal business coach or a personal financial advisor, that will help you.
Takes a lot of stress out of life because you stop sitting around spending too much time trying to figure it out. When someone can very easily give you the key that you need. I know
Absolutely.
that I have this quote, the greatest mountain we'll ever climb is the mountain within.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
Isn't that great?
I gotta steal that one. Yeah,
I
you're gonna steal
found that. I was like, oh, this would be perfect for the
that
podcast because we all have those inner mountains and we're slipping down, but we have
Yes.
to keep climbing. We got to get to the top.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
love this other quote. It doesn't have the author, but it says, "The scars you share become lighthouses for the people who are headed for the same rocks that you hit."
I love it. It's great.
That just says a lot. And I think that's in life. We all have scars. We all have pain that we've experienced. We all have been through something. And I think one of our purposes is to be that lighthouse for that next person that's going to come along and hit that same rock. And how can we be there to help them? How can we be there to empathize? How can we be there to encourage? And I think that's another purpose for our lives. We don't go through these things for no reason. There's
Yeah.
always a divine purpose. There's always it's never wasted pain. And that's what I love about your story, Andy, is that you didn't waste the pain, you didn't waste the challenge. You created something so much higher, so much deeper, that so many lives have been changed and will continue to be changed because you just chose to find the deeper meaning in all that you've gone through.
Thanks. Thanks. You know, it's I don't want to say it's selfish of me, but it makes me feel better. It's not like, I'm doing to be I'm doing it to help other people, but it helps me as well at the same time.
Mm.
It's kind of like, getting a guide. You're making the guide feel better, but you're also uh, you're helping yourself and you're making the guide feel better. It's the same thing. We've raised money to help other people, but it gets me out of bed every morning. Gosh, you know something? I gotta get out of bed today. I had a rough day yesterday, but I'm gonna get out of bed today because there are people that I need to help raise money for. And so it's been so helpful to me as well.
It's interesting when you said that about getting out of bed. My mother, she passed away about 8 years ago, but she was in her late 80s, and she was always very active. But as she got older, she said, I don't have a purpose,
Mm,
a reason to get up every day. She goes,
yeah.
I want to have a purpose for my day. And so my mother in her late 80s, I'm talking like 87 years old, found another friend of hers. And they decided to, and my mother was in the Navy. So
Oh,
they
really?
adopted a platoon of soldiers, and her friend every month had a different theme. And they would go out and buy what they could afford. And I think they had maybe, I don't know, maybe 12 soldiers, maybe a little bit more. And they would just put a box together, whether it was socks, it was just something. But they every month, what are we going to do next month? And that one thing gave them such purpose and excitement because they were doing something for someone else. And so I just want to shout out to anybody who's listening, like no matter how old you are, it's not about age. There's always something that you can do. There's a need. So just think about your community, think about your families, think about your church, think about, your neighborhood. Who
Yeah.
needs what you have to offer? And
Yeah.
you'd be surprised. They're waiting for someone just like you. And it may seem small, but it's going to be huge, the impact for others. So I just want to inspire anybody who's listening and they think, well, it's too late for me or
No,
I'm too
no,
old.
I
No,
go to the
what would you
lines. Yeah.
say?
I work out at the Y and I see these women that are older. And I don't want to, give out numbers, but they're older, right? And they're not climbing mountains with us, but they're in there knitting, caps and things for obviously for babies to give out either for low income people or for, at the NICU or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're not climbing mountains, but they're sitting there. They can be in a wheelchair, but they're still knitting caps for needy kids. And so, spend some time making two circles and see where they overlap. What do we love? Do we love babies? Do we love, um, you know, helping low-income people, whatever our passions are. And then what are we good at? We're good at knitting, are we good at climbing mountains, we're good at fundraising, whatever we're good at, and see where those overlap. Can we knit hats to give to low-income people? Can we drive around picking up food to give to homeless shelters? And so spend some time figuring those two spheres out, where they overlap and where you could find your purpose and make a difference.
Great advice. That's great advice. And I agree with you. And once you find that initial one, I think it just kind of grows from there, right? Before you know it, you're doing multiple different things.
And another thing is, there's a guy named Dr. Andrew Huberman. He taught me about the AMCC, and he said, do micro sucks. Do micro sucks every day. Things that suck for 30 seconds. I'm not talking about going to run a marathon, but at the end of a shower, turn it off for 30 seconds. Do a 20-minute sauna. Sprint for 30 seconds at the end of a run. Learn a new language. Take up an instrument. All those little microsucks build that part of our brain to make us more resilient. Because things are going to get rough, right? We weren't expecting COVID, and whack. So things are always going to get hard, but we got to prepare our brains literally for those challenges.
Does that help us become resilient?
Does. So that part of the brain, all those little micro challenges, and they have to be challenged. You can't, if you're a marathon runner and and we're in the flow state running 15 miles, it doesn't help us build that. But sprinting at the end of that run builds that. Learning not just the same Spanish you learned in high school, but Arabic or Russian, that this is really hard. And it doesn't have to be for hours, just a little bit every day builds up that ability to develop grit.
I love it. So I have to ask you, how did you come about your drink? You were in Iceland, and what happened that you came out with this Be More Organic drink? How did that come?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I told you, that all those health challenges that happened to me. And the old Buddhist saying, when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. And this gentleman, a speaker, appeared in my life to taught me how to eat right. And this is a long time ago, back when we could eat Snack-Rail cookies and think we weren't going to get fat. But, I learned a long time ago, back again, where people were eating the low-fat diets, which were crazy high in sugar, to eat lean protein, complex carbohydrates, and good fat. And all those things will keep us healthy. But back then, there was no healthy protein drinks. All there was is garbage on the market. And so none of it was healthy. They had toxic chemicals or lots of sugar or all this. So when we were climbing, I was actually our third climb, and my wife wasn't able to join us on that expedition. Well, she was able to come to base camp. She wasn't able to go up the mountain, but she was able to tag along and camp with us. And they serviced this yogurt-like thing for breakfast. It was like a strained yogurt, which I can't eat because I'm lactose intolerant. But I'm getting ready to climb high up on a mountain, but I'm like, I'm going to burn 6,000 calories today. I can't really not eat. But I ate it, and I was like, oh, that's fine. And and the next day I was still fine. And I said, Ivar, what is this stuff? And he said, it's actually not yogurt. It's skyr. It's actually a type of cheese, but it's got probiotics, which eat all the lactose. And so I looked at my wife and said, Jen, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to create a really healthy, convenient product. And so when I came back, they were actually importing this skyr in the US. We would just take it and whip it up with some frozen organic fruit in our blenders and made it. I'm like, I'm not a very bright man, but as you can tell, I'm resourceful. And so I went to the University of Vermont undergrad, which is who they're playing. They're playing Duke in the first round. But anyway, a dairy scientist from Vermont, we have one of the leading dairy programs there. And he, helped me formulate the recipe and just found a small little farm and start making it. And we just started bottling organic protein smoothies with no added sugar. We sweeten it with just stevia and the organic fruit. And so, we obviously we're very early in terms of a convenient form of protein with no added sugar and all organic. And, we certainly were able to ride that wave.
So how do people find your product?
Can we do another podcast on that? So just before COVID, we had to, because we're getting bigger and bigger, we moved to a new facility, what's called a co-packer, who would make it for us. And when we moved, they made a couple batches, one batch, and they're like, we're done. Like, no, we just moved here. We have a contract. No, we're not doing it. And so they terminated the contract and put us out of business overnight. So,
Hmm.
things,
Another mountain for you to climb.
another mountain for us to climb. So we had some setbacks and took us a while to get back up, but we're back up, and not the brand, but me and my family were back up and running again.
Oh, great. Well, I pray it comes back because it sounds like everyone
Yes.
needs that. Yeah, pray an open door comes. Well, I know you love to go around and speak. So if someone wants to reach out and connect with you, what would that be? How would they connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's Andrew, that's spelling my first name, Buerger, Buerger. I'm not sure if you can tag this in the show notes, but
Yes, I'll put everything in the show notes.
yeah, my personal website is there, andrewbuerger.com. Yeah, you can see the TED Talk that we're talking about, and I managed to write a book during COVID, and so that's there. But yeah, you can find more about me there.
Absolutely. Well, I'll have all of Andrew's connections in my show notes. But do you want to talk about your book real quick?
Yeah, so the book is basically my journey, called Carrying a Flag from Pain to Fashion. So we kind of discussed, basically what that book was about, which is just by carrying a flag, by having a purpose,
Mhm.
I was able to go from a life of pain, with all these health challenges, to a life of passion, where I wake up excited because I had that purpose, I had that flag to carry through life. And it's just kind of a longer version of my life, and goes into more detail, certainly all the many challenges to my loved ones, and how we do to overcome it and find happiness on the other end.
Sounds like a book that everyone needs to read. It's one of those books you just need to just keep nearby so you can be inspired. And in closing, and I just know you have a deep well to draw on. And I know there's someone that will be listening that right now, whatever they're going through just feels insurmountable to them. Like they just can't even see past their their hand, like they're just blinded right now, either with fear or they just need hope. Like in closing, how would you send some encouragement to that person right now?
Mm, Yeah, so many people are stuck in bed for whatever reason, it's physical or emotional, and depression is a real thing. And we've all had our bouts with it, that are certainly temporary. And it's hard, it really is. And there's some days that you don't want to get out of bed, and it's okay not to get out of bed 365 days, but you need to get out of bed. Maybe not today, but definitely tomorrow. Get out of bed and go for a walk. It's hard to be upset or anxious, or not depressed is not the right word. Anxiety and other mental health issues drop when we go for a walk in nature. Just You don't have to be a world-class athlete to spend an hour a day walking outside in nature. And some of us may live in cities to walk through a park. In New York, you can walk through Central Park. Get outside and move.
I think that's great advice because sometimes it's just a simple beginning, just movement. Movement in itself is good for our bodies, but especially outdoors, just go into a park, just letting nature itself, speak to you. And
Yes.
I would highly recommend that everyone gets Andrew's book, Carrying a Flag from Pain to Passion. If you're in that season of life where you do feel like something's just insurmountable right now, we learn and we glean from other people's stories, from other people's experiences. And so you don't feel like you're alone. You are not the only one who is going through a difficult time. Others have gone before you, and they can reach back and impart to you their wisdom, how they persevered, how they found hope. So don't go it alone. Get Andrew's book, reach out to him, um, it, hire him, schedule him, have him come speak to your corporations, your organizations, because I know you'll be challenged and transformed as you hear him speak. And I want to thank all of you who have come in each and every week. You are my transition tribe. And I know you come each week to be inspired, to hear a story that brings you hope, because together as a tribe, we will be transformed as we grow and embrace the purpose and the power of the transitions in our life. Thank you, Andrew, for being with us today.
My pleasure.